Hello again. I hope all of you are doing great. In the previous lecture, we understood about what is MapReduce at a very high level. As a part of this lecture, we'll try to understand MapReduce with an example. Let's get started. Assume that you have a large text file. This particular large text file is of around 1 GB and it has a lot of amount of data like mini poems. Consider this text file is stored as a table. It is represented as a table like this. Here in a large text file is represented as a record or a one line. So that is how it is represented. The whole file is represented in this particular format. Now, what we need to do here is we need to take this whole file as an input and then come out with how many times each of the word in this file are repeated, or in another way, what is the frequency of occurrence of each of the words in this particular file. That is what we are trying to do. How can we do that by MapReduce? What happens is the data is not at one place. The data is large and it is distributed across many machines in a cluster. Each of the machine holds a partition of the data. As we understood, there is a partition of the data in each of the machines. When the data is there in the different machines in a cluster, this particular partition is subjected to analysis through processors. Means processing is done by mappers in these three systems in this case, or in what are the systems which the data is distributed. A map phase where we have a mapper. Mapper is nothing but a code or a function or a class with a function. Each of the mappers are assigned to the each of the partitions in different machines. Sometimes it can be same machine also. The mapper works in parallel and process the data. The way it processes the data is within each mapper, the rows are processed serially. The mappers are operating, have started the work in parallel in these three systems, or in what are the systems where the data is distributed. Within each of the mapper, for example, we have a mapper which is processing the data, but within the mapper, the rows are processed serially. For example, this mapper takes this as an input first, it processes it and comes to the second line and processes it. So within each of the mapper, the rows are processed serially, but between the systems, the mappers are processing the data parallelly. What happens is we have a partition of file and it is stored in one of the node in a cluster, as we discussed, one of the data node in a cluster. And then mapper emits key value pairs. For example, see, we have a twinkle twinkle little star, how I wonder what you are, is the data which is present in this particular system. The mapper is, as we know, we have taken the mapper is nothing but a code, Java code, which will go and identifies the data on which it has to process, and it processes the data and provide us key value pairs. In this case, word is key, frequency of occurrence is the value. In this case, twinkle one, little one, star one is being represented as a key value pairs. Now, output from each of the mappers are passed on to another process called as a reducer. You can see here that each of the mappers have worked in parallel and they have produced the results and they are sent to reducer. What reducer does is reducer combines the values with the same key. For example, we have twinkle repeated 4 times here. It will take the value of the same key and combines them. That is how the reducer steps works. Essentially, what is happening is many of the data processing tasks, you may have a Amazon data wants to be filtered, or a patterns to be derived from a Bank of America data. So many of the data processing tasks can be expressed in this form. What is the form? Key value form. So mapper accepts the key value pair as an input and it outputs key value pair, and reducer accepts that as a key value pair and produces the key value pair. The final result will be after reducer. What it means is many of the data processing tasks can be expressed in this particular form. Now, if we really want to go ahead with the MapReduce, we have to ask two fundamental questions. What key value pair should be emitted in the map step? We need to really think about that. For all the problems, we cannot write same mapper and reducer logic. So we have to ask what key value pair should be emitted in the map step. And the second thing is, once this is done, how should the values with the same key can be combined? For example, in this previous case, are the mappers have given each word and how many times it is repeated. So a reducer takes that as a input and produces the key value pair as a output. Here it gives us final output. So these are the two questions. What were the example we just discussed? Let us try to summarize that by answering these two questions. The first question is, what key value pair should be emitted in the map step? What is our input data? Our input data is a text file, a partition within that. In the mapper, we need to take a word and give that word a frequency. This is the key value pair which we can produce at the mapper phase. Or if you try to make frequency as a 1 and a twinkle as a value, 1 as a key, then will not get the desired results. In this case, word need to be taken as one of the keys, and how many times it is repeated is taken as a value for the key. And then once that is done, what we need to do is we can combine the results of the same keys. Wherever the keys have same values, those values need to be merged in the reducer phase. That will give us the final output. What we discussed as a part of this lecture is we understood what is the MapReduce flow by using an example. Thank you. You have a wonderful time.